University. Welcome everyone to University of Cambridge Executive Education Program, Innovation and Intrapreneurship. My name is Henry Yan. I'm going to be your moderator for today. And once again, a warm welcome to everyone. This is a high-level program information webinar. So hopefully at the end of the session, you're going to have a much better understanding of this program is about. Today's webinar agenda as such, shortly, I'm going to introduce to you both speakers, Professor Coleridge and Professor Grimes, and a little bit about Cambridge Judge Business School. Obviously, the faculty, once again, it's the two gentlemen that I just mentioned. What is this program about? And then some of the learning outcomes, a little bit of highlights, and then the admissions and fees. I think the Emeritus team will address that. And then at the end, we'll address some of your questions. Once again, we're glad to have Professor Chris Coleridge, as well as Professor Matthew Grimes here with us today. A little bit about University of Cambridge. University of Cambridge have been in existence since the 13th centuries, so well over 800 years. It's one of the oldest university and certainly one of the most prestigious universities. The business school has forged a reputation as a center of rigorous thinking and then a very high impact, transformative education, and then attracting a lot of innovators, creative thinkers, practitioners, with very diverse backgrounds and different interests. A little bit of program overview. Did you know 50% of the annual organization revenue across different industries are derived from new products that is launched the last 3 years? 52% of Fortune 500 companies have been merged and acquired and even gone bankrupt since 2000 due to digital disruptions. And 12 years, only 12 years, is projected to be the average organizational tenure on the S&P index for the corporate lifespan due to the lack of innovation. Give you a little bit of perspective. In the 1950s and 1960s, companies that were actually in S&P 500 were actually remain in S&P 500 for roughly 25 to 30 years. So that lifespan remaining in S&P 500 have shrank nearly in half. So it's very, very important to be staying in the cutting edge of innovation. And obviously, the two professors will talk about what is entrepreneurship. Many of us have heard about entrepreneurship, right? What is entrepreneurship? They're going to talk a lot more about innovation and entrepreneurship and what this program is about. And who's this program for, right? So it's really for the strategic decision thinkers. It can be from the C-suite, whether it's CEO, CFO, CXO, COO, or someone who is in the leadership of making strategic decisions, innovation leaders, and also innovation contributors. With that said, I'm going to pass the baton and introduce to you Professor Chris Coleridge. The floor is yours.
Thanks so much, Henry. Great pleasure to be with you today and to introduce the module and the unit. My career in academia is focused on translating the knowledge that we have about what makes effective innovation into practice. And I do that with large companies. I do that in the classroom, supporting our students in the business school to drive innovation in their own organizations. And I do that as an entrepreneur myself, running a venture builder for climate tech startups on the side of my academic work. It's a great pleasure to be involved in this unit. We had a great time preparing it, and we're looking forward to working with the students. It is something which I hope will make a very significant impact on the organizations of the program participants.
Now we're going to bring in Professor Grimes, please.
Thanks, Henry. Thanks, Chris. So my name is Matthew Grimes. I'm a professor of entrepreneurship and sustainable futures here at the business school. I wear a few other different hats, both as a director of our Master's in Philosophy and Innovation Strategy and Organization program here, as well as academic co-director of the Entrepreneurship Center. A lot of my research is focused on how entrepreneurs and the process of entrepreneurship can introduce and sustain positive social change. So I spend a lot of time thinking about this at, from broad macro perspective, looking at institutions and ecosystem design, but then I also consider as well organizational creation and the process of ideation, innovation at the individual level, and how entrepreneurs interact with the broader ecosystem as well to derive feedback, improve their ideas, improve their capabilities. And prior to joining academia, I spent time in the world of consulting, most significantly in a company that was devoted to helping IT leaders, chief information officers around in the global 500, think about innovating, think about pursuing new ideas, new innovations, new technologies. And so trying to bring a lot of that insight around innovation and new technologies into this particular course as well. Next slide. So I do want to introduce one of our two guest speakers. The first one, Sejal Amin, who's the CTO at Shutterstock and also an adjunct instructor at the NYU School of Engineering. One of the things that is very impressive about Sejal is her long experience in leading teams around technology transformation. And so in this program, I'll be speaking with Sejal about her experience in leadership around issues of hype and innovation, and how diversity can allow organizations to engage more effectively with the process of digital transformation and technological transformation.
And I'll just say a few words about Gareth, our other guest speaker. Gareth is a longtime associate of mine. We did our MBA together many years ago. I don't like to say how many years. And he's an experienced innovation practitioner who brought some very interesting war stories and practical examples that really illuminate some of the principles that we share in the course, and talk about the way that there's sort of an interdependence between the different factors that we're looking at here, and how you, as a manager, navigate those interdependencies. Next slide, please. So we designed Matthew and I designed the program to be something which gives you a grounding in the theory, but then helps you through frameworks and through actionable inputs to turn the theory into practice. Mostly the type of innovation that's discussed in this program is breakthrough innovation. Right? If you're trying to do innovation which is incremental and is just the next version of your existing products, then some of the tools mentioned in this or discussed in this program are not so relevant. Right? But as was highlighted by the stats that Henry shared with you, most organizations have what we sometimes call the breakthrough imperative. that if they don't continuously move the horizons on and not just focus on their sort of current suite of product offerings, then they run the risk of being irrelevant. Right? So getting a deep understanding of why that imperative exists, why it's important for managers to stay alive to the need to not get into a business as usual mindset, is the starting point of the program. But once we've established that theory, we're really into the realms of practice. The work across the different modules is to look at examples, look at the way that organizations have made structural arrangements to go after these types of innovation opportunities, and how they are able to how managers working within the context of an organization that's perhaps a little bit stuck are able to put arrangements in place that really may change the game. Next slide, please. Now we're going to talk you through week by week what's covered in the program. I was responsible for module 1, 2, 4, and 6, and Matthew will talk about modules 3 and 5. Next slide, please. So as said, in this program, we're talking primarily about situations where you might create a new venture or unit in order to push a particular innovation agenda forward in a successful way. And we look at alternative processes that could be used instead of creating a new venture, an independent unit or venture, in order to help you, the learner, understand in what circumstances would an independent venture or unit be the appropriate technique, in what circumstances might another technique be appropriate. If a venture unit is the appropriate way forward, then there are a number of choices that have to be made about how independent that venture unit should be, on what dimensions it should be independent. And we'll guide you through how to think through those choices around the disciplinary clock of management, right? You need to think about people, you need to think about the customers, you need to think about operations and product, you need to think about finance, and we'll cover dimensions of all of that in the guidance that we give in module 1. Next slide, please. In module 2, we look at what kinds of opportunities might be the appropriate ones for using a new venture, using a new unit within an organization to go after. Fundamentally, we've known for decades that organizations can struggle to engage with new technologies. We've known for quite a while that organizations can struggle to experiment with new organizational structures, and that this is something that a new unit can sometimes be helpful in attacking. And occasionally, when an organization wants to go after a new customer type or define their engagement with customers in a new way, it can be helpful to do that through the construct of a new venture or unit. So we look at those cases, give examples. You, as the learner, work through a workbook that allows you to bring some of these examples to light in the context of your own work, and that lays the foundation for the practical work that we do during the remaining 4 modules of the program. Next slide, please.
So in module 3, and building on Chris's content around sort of opportunity search, there's another question that emerges for organizations and leaders of innovation, which is, given a set or portfolio of a variety of different innovations that you might be considering, how do you focus your efforts? How do you prioritize which innovations are most pertinent to the organization at this point in time. And so that requires some sort of systematic strategic engagement with thinking about these different innovations, the different characteristics, and also the potential that these innovations might be surrounded by hype. We know in today's climate that hype is all around us, that the innovations and technologies that we use to innovate, that we use to pursue new opportunities, are exposed to massive amounts of cultural excitement and compounding attention. And so how do we cut through that to see beyond the hype, to recognize what are the possibilities for this innovation? And so we'll be introducing you to a tool that I've created called the Value Maturity Risk Canvas that we can use to systematically rank innovation ideas and screen for hype. And then you'll be thinking about this again in terms of a portfolio of innovation. So you'll be doing this, applying a VMR profile for each of the innovations that you're starting to monitor and consider. And then ultimately understanding the importance of diversity in this context, because again, to the extent that these innovations are surrounded by hype, what you need most in this is to not just fall prey to kind of the madness of the crowd, right? You ultimately need to leverage wisdom. And what does wisdom entail? Well, it often entails some degree of cognitive diversity. And so how do you build in teams that are capable of, again, seeing past the hype to recognize the real potential for innovation? Next slide.
So in module 4, it's all about managing this process. And if you're going to build a new venture or a new unit as a way of pursuing innovation, then you're going to need to bring the right people together, get them socialized into what you're trying to do. If you're creating a new venture or unit in order to do innovation, you might be doing so because the core culture of the organization and the core structures of the organization may be preventing you from really going after the full potential of the innovation opportunity. If you're going to sort of go off to one side and work in a parallel structure to go after an opportunity, you're going to need to create a culture that's appropriate to that effort, and that's something they have to do consciously. Setting objectives in an innovation context is very different from setting objectives in the core of the organization, and you have to be aware that if you just import metrics wholesale from the parent organization, that may not, well, that probably will lead you into some kind of failure modes. So yeah, let's go on to the next slide.
Okay. All right. So building on Chris's module 4, where it's primarily about setting up these teams, we want to be thinking about how you actually build and maintain broader organizational support for these new innovations. Oftentimes, if you're trying to either integrate these innovations back into the organization or develop new innovations that might be spun out from the organization, for example, that requires not just the support from your internal team, but ultimately from the broader organization. So, and this actually is quite challenging in the context of moonshot innovations, right? You're trying to build out a compelling case for a long-term initiative, but as we know, how do you maintain support over that long term is going to be critical for your ability to achieve these kinds of long-term visions. And so that requires not just building a compelling case, but ultimately determining who in the organization has the capacity to help push this innovation forward. So we'll talk about how you can identify influencers to help you promote and establish your new innovation. Now, ultimately, as we know, in the context of innovation, failure happens quite frequently. The important thing is not just how do you avoid failure, but ultimately, how do you embrace the surprising benefits that failure can bring to your organization by way of learning that allows you to be constantly adaptive and build insights from that failure. Now that can be really challenging, and so we'll expose you to some of the latest thinking around how organizations are embracing failure, and then we'll also talk about this principle of the innovation runway. So ultimately, as you design new innovations, you want to be thinking about the various expectations that stakeholders have on the organizational process. You're running out of time essentially as you race down that runway, as you're building out new innovations. So you want to think about the length of that runway as well as the width of that runway in terms of your ability to pivot ideas, change ideas over time. And so how do you manage those expectations as you build, as you're building the plane while trying to get it off the ground? Next slide.
So in module 6, we bring it all together, and this is the opportunity to think about, okay, you've perhaps made some fruitful first steps in developing an innovation that looks promising enough to be relevant and taken forward by the mainstream of the organization. Given that you've done the innovation project in a slightly removed context from the main organization, how are you going to bring it back into the fold? How are you going to bring, how are you going to make the connections to be able to drive that forward in an interesting way? And by the time you get to the end of module 6, we hope you'll have a pretty comprehensive idea of the way that you can use new ventures and units to drive certain types of innovation projects forward. Next slide. Over the course of the 6 weeks, we're going to use a lot of examples. These are pretty famous examples of organizations that have used the techniques that we're discussing in the course, or who have fallen foul of some of the issues that we're going to highlight over the course of the 6 modules. Next slide, please. You're on mute, Henry.
Henry, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Thank you for the reminder. So in terms of the learning experience, it'll be composed of the first week, which is the orientation. And then there are the various assignments. The assignments are, you need to work on an action book and some various other assignments. So typically with the action book, you have to generate different ideas, right? When we talk about innovation, we need to have ideas, hopefully great ideas. And then you're going to apply the framework, learn from the sessions, from the modules, various modules from the program, and then apply those framework to your organizational units and how to bring that ideas hopefully into a product, a service that you can to provide to your customers. And in the Q&A sections right here, both Professor Coleridge and Professor Grimes will hold those sessions. And then obviously, as you are going through the curriculum, you might have questions. And then, while those video lectures are great, but you can't compare to asking, your burning questions with the three professors who are experts in the field. And once again, how you will learn it, right? So this is an asynchronous program. You're going to watch a lot of video lectures. The video lectures, typically, they're from 2 to around 8 minutes. They're bite size. And then that's per video lecture. And then for every week's module, typically, roughly speaking, they're about 45 to 60 minutes total worth of video lectures. But once again, these video lectures are bite size. They're on demand. You learn it whenever you want and however you want. Once again, workbook activities, we talk about that. There is, obviously, you're going to learn, have your peer network, like-minded folks who are working or hopefully are getting into or working on their respective ideas to bring to life. So you're going to meet like-minded folks. And there's a dedicated program support team from Emeritus. If you have questions, they will provide more personalized support, and obviously various case studies that Professor Coolidge have shared with you earlier. Now, it comes to the end when you have successfully complete all the required assignments. There is a digital certificate, and then once all the required assignments are completed satisfactorily, you receive this digital certificates in approximately 4 to 6 weeks upon satisfactory completion of the entire program. Okay. Now, if you have questions, certainly feel free to ask. And let me take a look at the chat. And then obviously, the Emeritus colleague have shared a link that you can schedule a call with an Emeritus advisor to learn more about the program, and then also share, where to apply, where it says apply for the program, you can click that link and apply the program directly. Let me see if there's any questions in the chat, and I can help answer. Okay, so there's one question here in terms of about the assignments, what it looks like. So once again, as sort of I gave a little prelude, the assignments for the most part will be very heavy on an action workbook, and then there are various assignments. And then that assignments, you're going to try to generate ideas. You're going to use the framework learned, and then you apply to a real life situation in your organizations. So that's high level what the assignments will look like. And then feel free to keep the questions coming if you have. Sure, that's a terrific question. There'll be no exam for those who have an exam phobia. There'll be no exam, but you will get, in terms of a grade, you will get sort of either a complete or incomplete. But if you, from what I was informed, if you have done your work, even though it's a rigorous program, but I think most of you should be fine. And how to apply? Very simple. The link is already shared, so you can apply it via the link. Just write in the chat that you can see the link. I think also someone mentioned it to me. Okay, so yeah, so I think it's the same gentleman. Are there any scholarships available? Unfortunately, there'll be no scholarships, but I think I was informed that if you apply early, there are different incentives. So take a look at, what the if you go to the program, and then more importantly, to make an appointment with the Emeritus advisor, they should be able to provide you with more details in terms of, how the whole process works. Okay. Are there any other questions? Okay, it doesn't look like there's any. With that said, I want to thank Professor Coolidge, Professor Grimes, for spending your time with us. More importantly, I want to thank each one of you for spending your time with us. So please take a look of what's shared in the chat in terms of making an appointment and also how to apply the program. And looking forward to see you in the program. Take care, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.